Okay, my year of beekeeping. So I've had my bees for 12 months this month, and we're just coming back into apricot flower now, and so we'll have a quick look at what's happening with the hives. So we started off with, I was gifted 2 hives last year. The beekeeper had passed away and his wife didn't want them, and so they were gifted to me. And when I got them, they were homemade boxes, non-standard sort of frames, shabby, there were some holes in them, and the bees were a little bit aggressive, defensive. Now, that's from someone with absolutely no experience in keeping bees. So on our farm, we had a person who used to bring bees to us, and he stopped coming years ago. His colonies died out and we were left with boxes. Once I opened them up and had a look, they'd been pretty much cleaned out with wax moth. And so I did have some hardware to start with, and I've been mindful of trying to keep my expenses down. So all I've done so far is I've bought some queen excluders, and I bought a bundle of black plastic frames. And I've spent this year trying to get everything standardized. And yesterday I was able to take out the last lot of non-standard frames in a brood area. And so all I'm left with now is this top box has non-standard frames in it, poorly spaced. They're all locked in place with cross comb, and I'm almost at the point now where I can cut it up, and I'll probably feed it back to the bees inside these top boxes using a rubber board. So this is one of the original hives, and it was split, and through bad management that split failed. This was the other original hive, and it was split, and that one's fared better. It was a weak colony, this one, and I didn't appreciate how bad it is to expose a weak colony to a strong colony when bees are robbing. And the hive was basically, the colony was robbed out, and the bees in it were killed. So if I'd known what robbing really looked like, I could have done something about it. But every experience is a learning experience. So we have, hopefully I won't get stung, but you can see that we have some really nice big pollen sacs coming in with that really bright red orange pollen, which I'm not really sure what that is from, but they look really impressive. And from my understanding, the way these bees are sort of just hovering in, landing and then going in, we are in a nectar flow. And so I can see 2 lots of pollen, but predominantly it's that orange stuff. And I think that might be from one of the medics' clovers that's up in the apricot trees. And then the other pollen baskets, looks like there might be 3 sorts. The other pollen baskets is possibly the black box. So at the back of the farm there's about 5 square kilometres of black box on a floodplain, which has sort of been in flower now for a while. So my goal this year is to do a better job at splitting the colonies. The 4 colonies that I've got, I'm hoping that I will double them up again to 8, if not 10. I think 10 might be my limit. I'm targeting having 1,000 apricot trees in a few years' time, and I'm at 400, between 400 and 500 trees at the moment, and I think 10 colonies might be enough to take care of 1,000 trees. If you were to describe what I am, I'm a non-migratory beekeeper, and essentially it's for pollination. I'm not really all that keen about going into honey extraction. It's a whole lot of expense. I'm going to do some cut combs for myself, maybe for family, maybe for some gifts, but at this stage really not keen on going down the honey extraction path. That's another pollen. So there's four pollen sacs that I could see, 4 pollen colours I can see. The biggest mistake I made, I suppose, was putting the bees or the colonies in the wrong spot. When I first got them, which I suppose turns out to be a fairly common mistake from what I've read, I put the hives at the end of the apricot rows, and they did a really good job for pollinating the apricots, and then I had bees at the end of the rows for the whole year, and we got stung while we finished pruning, and we got stung while we were doing weed control, and we got stung while we were picking apricots. And so I finally worked out a way of moving the colonies. Again, not really interested in finding a spot that 3-5 kilometres away where I can leave the hives for a month until they cycle through their bees, and then I can bring them back to the farm. So I worked a way of how to move them by doing splits, and so that got me all the way down into one box, and then I moved that single box down here. And unfortunately that was the weak colony that, once I moved it down here, ended up being attacked out, and I lost that one. So the high point, I had 6. I recombined 1 because I knew it wasn't going to, the queen didn't take, so I did 2 colonies. I did 4 splits, 1 didn't take, so I recombined the bees. That gave me 5 colonies, and 1 through bad management failed, and so I have 4 what I think seem to be good, strong colonies. And we'll have a quick look at why I have bees. And this is why I decided to bring bees onto the farm myself and learn how to keep bees and how to manage bees for pollination. So we're up in the apricot trees. You can see it's a good scattering of flowers right across, with plenty of buds still to come out. The king flowers have gone. We're just coming up to what would be regarded as full bloom. I can hear the bees working away. We also have a fairly good carpet of burmatic. I'm thinking possibly that's where that red pollen might be coming from. And we have some bees just working through the tops of the flowers. Quite a few here have come to the end. We'll see in a few weeks how well they've set. And so now, instead of having bees at the ends of the rows, they're just down the back here, about 60 metres away. And I think with what's happening with the varroa mite outbreak in New South Wales, here in my home state, I think it's turned out to be quite a wise decision to look at bringing bees onto the farm and managing them myself.